Hello, I am Mark Early, a delegate from the western part of Chesterfield County here in Virginia, and I am here at the Ignite studio, sparked by BBB, to learn more about the Better Business Bureau here with Barry Moore, and I am happy to be here. Thanks for joining
it's great. I'm glad you're here. And Evie Cara George is my backup podcaster. Actually, she's the lead. When you hear her,
I would have guessed that she's the lead.
She is the lead, and I give her full credit. She's amazing. But go ahead. What do you want to know about the BBB?
I want to know whatever you have to tell me, because I have grown up hearing about the BBB and the Better Business Bureau, but I have never been intimately involved with it in any way. So, just start out by telling me, how did it start? Where did it come from?
I'll do this question, Evie. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Because that's history, and I'm a lot older than you. So the BBB started in 1912. We're international, and it's a nonprofit brand. The logo is well known, the torch.
Right.
The BBB is a nonprofit, and Mark, as I tell everybody, you're a lawyer. As I tell everybody, we have zero jurisdiction, zero power, zero anything. We are the greatest offensive play for a consumer. We are not a defensive play.
Okay.
And everybody, you grow up, your dad might have said, call the BBB, call 12 on your side. Well, you're wasting your time on both, please. But what I tell people, call DPOR, call the AG, call a lawyer, pay the lawyer.
Sure.
Because consumers don't pay us anything to do it. We're a nonprofit, and we get no government funding.
Okay. So 1912 was the
Yes,
beginning.
sir.
Okay. And so if you're a nonprofit, how do you operate? I mean, how do you get funding to do what you do?
So we go through a vetting process with all of our accredited businesses, and they pay an annual fee. Now, you may have heard of something called pay to play. That is not how we operate here. All of the accredited businesses that fill in an application and apply to be vetted go through background checks, make sure that their licenses are up to date and valid, and then they go through a voting process with our board of directors as well. And I will say this, Jen and Crystal are probably better than the FBI when it comes to background checks.
They are scary.
They are scary.
Is that
It
right?
is frightening, yes. So if you think you're going to get away with something, you're not, believe me.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're telling me there's no jurisdiction in terms of there's no power, but you sort of act as a community, almost like a community regulator in a way.
Yep.
Not as a regulator, but a resource to people
resource, okay.
file complaints with us, share information. So let's say your child bought something and as a consumer and feels they had an agreement and the product broke, and according to the guarantee or the warranty, it should be replaced. Well, then you file a complaint online. That comes over to us. We're like in the middle. We send it to the business. Whether they're accredited or not, we're sending the complaint. We expect them to respond responsibly and with a fair answer. If it's 3 sentences saying, listen, Sonny, you bought the product, your dog chewed it up, we're not covering it, but thank you so much, and we cover only what we said we cover. So they're professional, respectful, and with integrity, with backup, paper backup. Then your son can walk away and say, you know what, I did the right thing. I got the right answer from the company. I believe, being at the car business for so many decades, I just wish people would have just picked up the phone and called me or just walked in.
Right.
A lot of the things happen right while the transaction's happening. And then husband and wife or son and daughter, they go home and they brew about it.
Right.
And then they want to make a big deal out of it. Where if they just go to no business owner is going to spend, whether it's $100,000 to start a business, 100,000, $1 million, or 10 million, or whatever the number is, to fail. They don't open businesses to scam people. Brick and mortar businesses or online businesses that are accredited. The ones that are fly by night that might be working 3 countries away are the ones that you have to watch out for. And that's where we are the information gatherer that people can say, wow, don't buy that at Facebook. Don't buy that. I almost bought a pair of shoes. And one time I did. They were the size for like a probably Ken and Barbie size shoe. I wear a 13E. And Triple E, and these things came in, and there's a no return policy. It was a couple of years ago, and I love shoes, and so I never done that again.
You love shoes?
I love shoes.
Okay.
And when I go to the Triad in Chesterfield County, that's the story I always open up with, and the people know it by heart. So those are good people, and the sheriff over there, that Triad is really a good triad, what you do for seniors.
So,
Anyway.
so tell me this. So you reach out, let's say there's a complaint, you reach out to a business. Do you generally get a pretty good response rate? I mean, do people, they see BBB and they say, okay, I gotta address this and deal with it?
Because that's how their score is, the A+ rating.
Okay.
That's how we grade them.
And you put, how do you disseminate that information to people once you have scores and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, so we try to tell it in media or this kind of a venue.
Okay.
Speaking at triad events or high schools, work-based learning. I work with Mike Watkins and Kate, really trying to get more involved with work-based learning in Chesterfield, but really the whole state. I'm trying to, because our brand is international. So we represent everybody, every consumer and every child. So I'm trying to get the word out about the BBB, more and more churches, wherever will let us talk, advertising. So that's how we do it. And then the biggest resource we have is bbb.org. We have the most, probably the most hits of any other than Google, probably the most hits coming on any website.
Is that right?
Around the world.
Google
bbb.org.
uses our information.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Which we enjoy.
So,
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yes, we do enjoy it because we actually vet all of our complaints and our reviews to make sure that it was an actual human being that wrote them.
Not just a bot figuring something out.
Exactly. Because it's easy to pay for good reviews nowadays and post them on Google. The other downside about Google is that once you have a bad review, you can't put it down, or it's almost impossible to put it down after that. It kind of sticks with your rep after that. With us, we get both sides of the story. We get the business's side and we get the consumer side, and so we try to find a middle ground between the two.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we don't weigh in with our opinion. Our opinion is neutral. It's a tough job. The women we have working here are 100% trained professionals. They care about their community. They care about their accredited businesses. The businesses that are not accredited, we really, should I say this? We don't care. We don't care. If they're not accredited.
That's where I was going to go next. So what's the benefit to a consumer having an accredited business to do business with versus not accredited? I mean, what's sort of the difference there?
So I'll give a personal example. We just got a puppy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What kind of puppy?
He's a mini Aussie Doodle.
Okay.
Yes, he's a little tyrant, but I love him to death. But I was looking for a vet. I'm used to, the small town, country bumpkin type of vets that make me feel comfortable when I walk in there and I know they're not trying to sell me something. First place I went to look for a vet was bbb.org, because I knew that even if I was an accredited business, I was going to find one that had an A+ rating, which meant that they had a review.
Okay.
Now, if it was accredited, 100% I was going with them, because I knew that they went through that vetting process and they uphold the values of integrity, respect, honesty, and they start with trust. So they're not going to try to sell me something my pup doesn't need.
Right. And so if a business let's say there's a business out there, whether it's a law firm, vet, like you're saying, whatever else, restaurant, and they say, okay, I want to get accredited. What does that process look like? And what is it, when you say the vetting, what does that actually mean to them?
So what happens is they fill out an application. The application goes to Jen, right? Jen then does her thing. She does the research. She looks at past reviews. She looks at past business ethics that they've had. And she looks into what type of past they've done.
Felonies.
Yeah, anything that they've upheld their licenses, that sort of thing.
Deport license, and then we check insurance.
And once they pass that, and it gets a stamp of approval from Jen and Crystal, it then goes to the board of directors and they review it. So it goes through a secondary review with them. And then once we have our board meetings, they vote on whether or not it should be an accredited business or not.
And what we're asking for, if I'm a builder, then if I know that builder intimately, or a lumberyard, I know them intimately, I would say I object because they know a bad story that we might not have picked up on. That's we're a board of directors driven industry, right? Being a nonprofit. So I am the CEO, I do the operation, but the board of directors have a fiduciary responsibility. And also, you don't want to have somebody like me taking these offside companies for taking $100 from them and making them accredited.
Gotcha.
That's the purity of this business.
Gotcha.
And it honestly works.
Okay. So I've heard accreditation. I've heard you can take complaints and sort of vet them. What other tools does BBB sort of provide to the community?
We're going to let
Great
Evie do that
question.
one.
We have a lot of awesome tools. We have our scam tracker that actually we collect data through Scam Tracker, and it lets us know when there are any local scams, any nationwide scams going on.
And how do you get that information? Is that just from people reporting it, or is that you sort of go out and proactively
People
find
that report it, we
Okay.
collect that information. We also get notifications from IABBB, and that is that's the big guy. They send us
Okay.
all the information.
umbrella.
The umbrella.
I gotcha.
They send us information and say, just so you know, it's Valentine's Day coming up. Watch out for these sorts of scams going on.
Okay.
So then what will happen is we'll post it on our social media. We'll send out announcements to make sure that they're aware, and any events that we're going to during that time period, we make sure to let people know about those scams going on. But of
Gotcha.
course, Scam Tracker is available on the website at bbb.org. So at any point in time, you can always go there and look for any scams going on.
And
So good. So and I share with your audience too, Mark, in so many ways in the roles you have. Amazon and Capital One made significant donations to the Better Business Bureau to help us build a better scam tracker, new technology. We don't have the money, at that level. It was big money, and it's apparent Amazon and Capital One are getting affected by the claims, right? I mean, they're getting hit by all the fraud and scams.
right.
So it behooved them to put their money where their mouth is, and it's a great partnership. And just last week, we've got a great relationship with the Attorney General here in the States. Been here, done some events. We started a Survivor Day versus calling people that were scammed victims. And the reason I want everybody to realize this, when I go to the Triad events, you hear seniors that have been scammed. They're embarrassed, they're hurt, they're depressed. They were becoming suicidal in this day and age. So we have people killing themselves or depressed, closing the door on the world because they've been scammed. And they go to the police department, and you go into any police department, and it's not the police department's fault. Make that clear. But you go in and say, I've been robbed by a scam, that's nothing they do. They don't handle that because they got so many other things they have short on people,
Right.
and they're not educated. So what Amazon and Capital One did with the BBB, we built a toolkit that we started putting up on the site last week on the 9th of May, rather. And what it is become, that second Thursday of every month, of every May, is going to be a Survivor Day, not a victimization. That is going to change the way we look at it, the way police officers look at it, sheriffs look at it, the FBI. There was somebody from the Justice Department at Amazon on the panel. And so the question went right to that woman, works for the federal government, Justice Department, FBI, and they went through the scenario. This woman was ripped off of about $500,000. Young kid, had money, obviously had a good job, and got affected on a romance scam, and it was $500,000. And she went to the FBI, and they just said basically nothing we could do for you.
Wow.
Where the help happens when they complain, if you got ripped off or a scam, and you post it and I can't do it for you. You have to go on. It's got to be your words, any receipts, phone numbers. That's where the FBI will look to help solve some of the problems because they're going to look for trends.
Okay.
Our computers move so fast,
Right.
and they're looking at IP addresses, phone numbers, all this fraud, and they're working it as quickly as they can. But when you walk in off the street and say, I got ripped off of $500,000, it's not their problem
Right.
because they're not staffed. I mean, it's obvious we got so many other problems.
Yeah.
But this is a big problem.
And
it's tax-free.
Is the amount that you see out there, just in terms of the amount of scams, is it scary? Is it ubiquitous? Is it?
It's scary.
Yeah, it's 5,000 is a round number, but it could be 20, 30,000.
And now we're looking at it, the age range has shifted now to the most vulnerable age range being 18 to 24 years old.
I was going to ask that if it has shifted from the
It used to
older
be
the
seniors.
younger. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
And why is that? Is that just because of the amount of online sort of interaction that the young kids are doing? Just the phones.
The
everything?
phones.
Okay.
That's right. We're on camera. Yes, the phones.
We see things you'd think we'd learn by now about being catfished or buying things off of Facebook and Instagram now. We're always looking for a deal. I'll give you an example. I'm a girl. I see a dress that I like. It's on Instagram. Maybe I want to get that dress, but it comes and it's for a Barbie doll.
I gotcha.
And I paid full price for it. So I know it's a silly example, but it happens every day. And those are the types of things that we want to be able to teach people at the BBB is be a smart shopper.
Okay.
And the part of that is going to bbb.org. If you want to shop local, awesome. We have amazing local businesses. But we have a huge national database, and we're international. We're in Canada too, that can provide you with information for other businesses.
Gotcha. Okay.
And what would lawyers and police officers, you guys should use bbb.org for research too. You know, I keep saying in a police department, you're wasting, when Jason Miyares, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Was here, and we were speaking, I go, get rid of your whole staff that's doing the investigations, just go to bbb.org, reshift them into another area and let them do other kind of work. And let the bbb.org, it's free. We're not charging for it. Support it like Capital One maybe, and so they, he came out with a video for that. I started saying for May 9th, May 6th, May 9th, whatever the date was. And he came out, did a video. It was great. And then the governor, we didn't get a proclamation. It takes 45 days to get a proclamation, by the way. So just, Gotcha. So, so it takes that long to apply. But we only came up with this idea at the BBB 30 days before. So we couldn't get a proclamation. But we did get a letter supporting it, so the governor knows about it, which is the greatest thing we can ask for. Okay. That our governor right here and Capital One and Amazon is recognized for doing the work they did.
Gotcha.
So we're at about 16 minutes, so that's about the wrap on our podcast. Any other questions we can answer for you?
One other quick question. Actually, I'm going to do a 2-in-1. What's the simplest and quickest sort of summation you can give me of what is the mission of the BBB? And then I'm just curious, how did each of you all sort of make it here? What was sort of your path to landing here at the BBB?
So I'm going to start out, if you don't mind. So what we want is a marketplace that starts with trust.
Okay.
Bottom line. And what does that mean? It means that the consumers can trust business owners that are accredited and been vetted. So we want them to find everything at bbb.org. Google's fine. You can do all that. But start at bbb.org and read the complaints.
I love that mission just because it seems like one of the umbrella or overarching problems we have these days is a deterioration of sort of social trust or societal trust,
Correct.
which is whether it's about crime or whether about anything else. That's a lot of it. So I love that.
Yeah. So we went from in 22, we had about 800,000 inquiries about in 42 counties about businesses. And I got business owners I'm still fighting with, arguing with, debating with, that we're irrelevant. Well, 800,000 people, a lot of shoppers, my opinion. Well, last year, because of the way I've taken on this, I'm not from the for-profit world. I'm a business person. So I understand what businesses need, what consumers need. We had 1.5 million inquiries in 42 counties. So we doubled it. So guess what? The public's listening. Who's not listening is some of the business owners. Whether they're accredited or not, they're not engaging. And Mark, what I see I moved back here, and I love to share. You asked a great question how I got here. And then you got a great story also, Evie. But how you got here, I think you do. And so I believe in Chesterfield County. I don't live there. Well, I do live there now again, temporarily. But, Legos is coming, right? It was a big deal. Supervisors, economic development, the partnership. I think when I was at Haley, I think I donated $10,000 a year to be a member there. And Jennifer, and they do a lot of economic development. We're bringing businesses here. It's wonderful. Let's high five. Let's embrace it. But my greatest fear on a company like this that's international, not from the United States culture, they have a very different culture. They love the community. They're all about the community. But if they start feeling they're doing businesses or their employees, 1761 employees, right? 1,761 employees. I remember Chris Winslow kept bringing up that number. If Legos finds out that Chesterfield's not all that, they got the power and the money to pack up and go anywhere they want, right? So I have been working, and Joe Casey and Garrett Hart over in Chesterfield County are all in, and they get it. I want every business in the Chesterfield County to be accredited. It's not about the money. It's about raising your hand and saying, we're going to do business right. So a moving company is going to treat those 1,700 employees the right way. The mortgage broker, the handyman, the tile person, the house cleaner, the schools, the private schools for kids. If everybody in Chesterfield County, and that county was accredited and believed in our mission and understood this, amazing experience Lagos would have. It would travel, and Joe understands this. We've talked about it. We'd get national attention because there's no community that's gone out and done this. But I see it. I see, the Chesterfield County Mall or Westchester Commons having a big seal saying every business there is accredited. We start with trust. Imagine that community and the economic development. Then you really have it. Okay, and I'm not putting anybody down. It takes a lot of work, legwork, to get economic development. That's fair. There's stages. But now it's going to come down to these people going to the BNIs, going to the chambers, going to the Better Business Bureaus, going to Rotary clubs, and thinking this is all about a payday. That's not what this is. So I'm really anxious to see this happen. The supervisors let me speak about it, and I'm excited. I hope we can get the message out, but it's going to take a lot of people. It's going to be a big organization. How I got this job, I was on the board for years. I went up to Pittsburgh. My career up there didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. It was a bad partnership. We were up there. We were going to retire there, my wife and I. And then Tom Winfrey, who served on the board with me when I was on the BBB, called me up and said, hey, you're not, we stayed in contact. And it was Christmas, right after Christmas, it was between New Year's. And he said, you're not doing anything. Apply for this job. We've been through 90 apps. We had one. We took too long to make a decision. She was smart. She moved on. But would you, can't falter, but would you apply? And I said, not happening. I'm not moving back to Virginia. And we talked about it and everything and said, all right, I'll do a virtual interview. And Mark, within 8 or 10 minutes, I was more than excited, knowing, because I was looking inside now, differently than a board member. I was seeing how we were failing, not connecting with consumers and accredited businesses. Gotcha. And we weren't providing any services. We really weren't. Yeah. So after 113 years, we're a seal. Okay. And then you're right, we're a seal. So I went through the interview, my daughter and my wife saying, you got to apply, you got to take the job. You can't stay home. You're going to go crazy. You're going to drive us crazy. Take a job. Well put, right? And so me and my wife had to make a decision. If I took it, she was going to stay at Pittsburgh because I was going to retire back there. But she would come down here for the weekends or weeks at a time, whatever. And do you guys ever look at the ceiling fan? You know what I'm talking about in your bedroom?
Of course.
Ceiling fan. What does that represent when that's going around and around and around at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Probably that you can't sleep.
Right. And a lot of people get that. It's either stress, you got something on your mind, you're excited, whatever it is. And so I woke up that night, and this was a quick decision, like 48 hours. And I was watching the fan, and my wife had gone to bed saying, take the job, please. Before somebody else takes it, I go, nobody's going to take it. Nobody's going to take this job. I know it. They're going the wrong way. Nobody's going to know how to fix it. And so I went to sleep, wake up at the fan, and then I tell the story at the Triad. So because we're on the camera, I'm going to watch your eyes in a second, all of you, even you, Sarah. So, and God said, right? And then at Triad, nobody really gets it, but then, because they're all sleeping by now in my speech. And then I said, God said, and then everybody got their attention. I was looking at the ceiling fan, and God said, Barry, you never listen. You pray, but you never listen to what I tell you and give you. Right? I said, God, I'm a terrible listener. I really am. I talk more than I listen. I never listen to everything. I'm so sorry. And I go, so what are you trying to tell me? And he goes, do you understand you're replacing Barry Moore? Barry Moore had the job. You're Barry Moore. Only God could put that together. I took the job at 3:30 in the morning. And my wife, I woke her up, said, I'm going, packed up that next day and left. But that's how I got here. That's what I believe. Yeah. This is my life. And it's all about the community. Yeah. What you do for your career, you give to the public. I'm giving to the public in a different way. When I sold cars, I gave to the public. I gave them fair deals. There were some people that hated me out there, but most people liked me. And we always did the right thing. Yeah. It's always perception. Now, Evie's got a better story, even though we're going late. Go ahead.
My story's not that great, but
it is too.
As far as the Better Business Bureau, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I want as beautiful as Richmond is to reflect in the eyes and the hearts of the people again that are here and in the 42 counties as well that we overlook. And that being said, I want every business to want to start with integrity, honesty, respect, and trust. And in order to do that, we have to build trust in our community again. And they should really take that into consideration. As far as my story being here, I met Barry at the Brick House Diner.
There you go.
Yep. So I was visiting my grandmother and my uncles that day. And my grandmother walked out and she said, "You got to meet Barry." So I sat down with Barry. We talked for about an hour and a half.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he said,
3 cups of coffee at least.
3 cups of coffee.
At
Yes.
least, yeah.
Yep. And he's like, give me your resume. Send me your resume. And I said, okay. What was it? A couple weeks later, you emailed me and you said, "I have a position opening up. You're not qualified for it, but I think you should try out for it. You should apply for it anyways." And I said,
So
okay.
you were just daring her to.
Yeah,
Correct.
he was. He
I
wanted
needed to
see
go
if-
through the process.
Yeah.
Well, I did it, and I said, "Well, you know what? Even if I don't get the job, can you give me feedback?" And he was like, "Okay." So I went ahead and did it. A gentleman did get the job, but he wanted me on the team. So I ended up being a part of the team. 2 weeks later, that gentleman quit, and Barry's like, "This is your time to shine." And so that's how I got the position as director of Ignite, and
wow.
we're kind of a 2-man band with Ignite. Yep.
That's great.
It's been a great ride. So.
That's great.
She's a great help to the community.
That's awesome. Well, thank you all so much for this. This
Thank
was
you.
really informative, and I appreciate the time.